Why are we all trying to look the same? It's 2025 and we're still trying to look the same. You still open social media and everyone has the same face, everyone has the same lips, everyone has the same haircut, right? Now that it's summertime, everyone's the short bob. I don't know what their haircut's called, but everyone does the trend. If you're on TikTok, you know what I'm talking about. There's that trend that they go bob, and then they do this, and then the hair changes from the long hair to the short hair. Yeah, everyone has the same hair, same clothes. Everyone wants to buy the same products in the hopes of looking like this one girl, this one person. It's annoying. It's overwhelming. We know that. And it's not something new. As women, we grow up with that pressure. I think all of us, I think men have their own way of, their own pressures of looking a certain way, of having hair, for example. We know that men also have, there's also some conversation there. But for women, that is such a, I don't know, I think the moment we're born, there already the pressure of looking a certain way. There's already the pressure of being more like this, less like that. It is so exhausting. It is so exhausting. So I think we have to talk about this. We have to talk about beauty. We have to talk about this idea of quote unquote glow up. We have to talk about how we participate in this pressure of looking a certain way because we say that, oh, society makes us, feel this way. Society does this, society does that. But we're also part of society, especially with social media, that now we don't have just the something to intermediate our interactions, right? Something to dictate what's beautiful. Like obviously you still have media, you still have, all these things dictating what's beautiful, but also because we have a one-on-one relationship with each other, we're also dictating what's beautiful. It's also our responsibility to be aware of these things and be careful and responsible with the message that we share on social media, people who create content and all of that. So we have to talk about beauty. We have to talk about these standards and how we conform with them. So today I'm here with my beautiful t-shirt that says, why are we all trying to look the same? I made this for my brand. I never really sold this, but I made this at a time that I was like, oh my God, I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed. I cannot spend 5 minutes on social media without getting annoyed by seeing everyone with the same faces. So today we're going to talk about that. Come have a seat at the adults table. I'm Fernanda Rodriguez, and welcome to the adults table. Let me start off by saying that when I talk about beauty and when I talk about beauty standards and when I talk about approaching beauty in a more holistic way, I am not rejecting the external factors and the external appearance. I think that people who completely reject that, people who say that, oh, you should not want to change anything about yourself. Oh, you should not care about anything regarding your appearance. If you do, you're shallow. If you do, you're superficial. If you do, then you don't love yourself. I also think that that's just another way of seeking validation. It's like being the anti-hero who deep down only wants to be the hero. So we're not gonna reject that. We're not gonna reject appearance. That's not gonna be a taboo here because here's a reality. Let's talk about facts as adults. Your appearance communicates. That's the first thing that we have to say and get out of the way. Everything that you see is a symbol. And we do that even for survival purposes, right? We have to know, oh, this is dangerous. This is not dangerous. Okay. We used to be like that. But to this day, obviously, we attribute meaning to the things that we see. And you can, lie to yourself and think that these things don't apply to you. You can try to reject that and say, in my book, that doesn't make sense. But it's a fact. It is a fact. The external appearance communicates. So it makes sense for us to care about our appearance, other than the fact that, yeah, it makes us feel better. For some people, I don't know, for me, when I get my nails done, I'm like, I can conquer the world. I feel so confident. Something so silly, so stupid. When my hair is looking the way that I like it, I feel better. When I'm wearing these clothes that make me feel very powerful, I feel better. So other than the fact that, yes, for many of us, the appearance does matter, there is a fact that cannot be overlooked, which is that it communicates. I remember a few years ago, there was a situation in Brazil that a bank started to require women to have their nails done. Women that had, contact with clients. And people were pissed. They were livid. They were like, you cannot control women like that. And I get it. It's annoying. It's annoying. But here's the reality. Let's talk about facts. If you're a bank, you are handling people's money. Money is one of the most important things in an individual's life. Oh, but that sounds greedy. That's not one of the most important things in my life. Yes, it is, because if you don't have money, you don't survive. Period. Like we need money to survive. So if you're giving your money to a company, to a bank, whatever, you need to trust that bank. You need to have an idea, a perception, a good perception of that bank. If any sort of interaction with that bank gives you the idea of something dirty, then it might not be trustworthy. Because we connect this. You don't look at something dirty, you're like, ooh, I trust that. You don't. It's just how we operate. So if maybe the person's nails are dirty, that might get in the way of you trusting the bank. That is a fact. So I don't think we should be that hurt by talking about appearance. I don't think we should be that sensitive to talk about appearance. I understand why we are. Because as women, we go to another extreme. We go to the extreme of, you have to change everything about your appearance. You have to look this certain way. So I understand why we're sensitive to talking about appearance. It makes sense. But we shouldn't reject it completely because it communicates. So we have to use that strategically. You have to think about, what am I wearing? What I'm wearing, is it communicating what I want to communicate, for example? So you have to be aligned with that. If it is communicating what you want to communicate, awesome. But if it isn't, then you have to review it. So I don't think we have to reject our appearances completely. Now, there's a huge difference between acknowledging that appearance matters and making that the center of your life. And that is the trap that we fall into. That is why it's so tricky to get into this topic in the first place, because it becomes the center of our existence and the center of our worth. If we don't look a certain way, then we're not validated. Then if we're not validated, then it means we're not worthy. And then where's my self-esteem? It doesn't exist. So we cannot sit here and be hypocritical and say that, no, I don't care about validation. We do care about validation. We do. Obviously, when you have people telling you, oh, you look so pretty, or you're this, you're that, when you have people, telling you how awesome you are, you feel better about yourself. You see yourself in others. So if people are telling you how awesome you are, you're like, damn, I must be awesome. Must be that beautiful. So validation is in the center of human existence. It makes sense why we seek it so badly. But at the same time, we end up building a false idea of validation and worthiness when we only rely on what people say about us, on what they say about our appearance. So I think we fall into a trap the moment that we think that beauty is actually just conforming, because that's not sustainable. What happens when a trend shifts? What happens when you can no longer follow a certain trend? What happens, then what happens when you move places and that new place that you go to, all of a sudden they don't like this way of being that you grew to be? You know what I'm saying? It is not a sustainable way. And in this moment that we live, we think that just by conforming, that's kind of the quickest way to get validation. And it might be, I don't know, it might be, but it's not sustainable, because real beauty, and when I say real beauty, my love, let me just open here a parenthesis, because oh my God, there's such a difference between looking at someone and being like, oh, this person is cute, and looking at someone and you're like, this person is a goddamn queen. This person is a goddess. Someone who enters a room and you're like, holy shit. Someone who their presence is felt. Someone that is so, I don't know, someone who owns who they are to an extent that people are like, oh my God, you can feel it. It's magnetic. It's intriguing. If you have never met someone like this, you're never going to forget the first moment that you do. The first time that you meet someone like this is going to change your life, because my love, it is so different. It is so different. You can meet someone who is the person who conforms the most with the beauty norms, and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, they're so pretty. But when you meet someone who's magnetic, your life changes. I swear to God. Because the difference between someone who's just pretty and someone who's magnetic is that the person who's magnetic knows who they are, and they own who they are, and they enjoy being themselves. listen to this part, they enjoy being themselves. So they don't rely on external validation. It's great if they have external validation, awesome. But if they don't, they're not going to die. They know that they're not going to die. And it's so amazing when you experience that. And we all want to become that, because who wants to have a low self esteem? Who wants to, look at themselves and be like, damn, I don't like being who I am? No one wants that. But to enjoy being who you are, you have to do more than just conforming to the beauty norms. You have to do more than just put lip fillers. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to do more than just put fillers in all of your face and to get your short bob. That's not going to do you any, long-term and real self-esteem development. So, how do we start approaching beauty as something more holistic, as the enjoyment of being who you are? First, for you to love yourself, you have to know yourself. So, if you're a person who right now you spend more time looking at other people's lives and just replicating what they do, and you think that that's how you're going to find yourself, that's how you're going to get your validation, I advise you to start spending more time investing on yourself and getting to know who you are. Go to therapy, go read, I don't know, man, go try to understand how your psyche works. Go study, like go sit down and try to understand, like, okay, how can I understand myself? How can I really put in the work? Not as something romanticized, not as, just, copy and paste what people are doing on social media and all this healing content that I hate because I think it's so fake. Not that type of thing, but like invest time getting to know yourself. And you know what's going to happen when you invest time getting to know yourself is that you're going to get in touch with the dark sides of yourself. And you're going to be like, I have to be less of that. I have to heal this part of myself. I have to completely cut this off who I am because this is not desirable. This is not the right way of being. But you're going to find out, my love, that to own who you are, you have to be good at being who you are. And to be good at being who you are, you have to be good being whole, being complete, not being overly good, overly this. You have to be the saint. You have to be this. You have to be that. No, you have to have the sides of you integrated. You have to know how to use the sides of you that maybe you reject. So the person who enjoys being who they are, understand that they're human, that they're complete, they're whole. They're not just overly this, overly that. They're not just conforming. They own who they are. But to own who you are, you have to accept the sides of yourself that you don't like. And that is work. That takes time, that takes energy, that takes maturing. And because of that, you have to put in the time, the work, the energy. If you dedicate all of your time just looking at other people on social media, praising other people on social media, looking up to other people on social media, and that's all that you do, and you want to be like them so much that you're willing to change every single thing about yourself, you are never going to find your self-worth. You're never going to improve your self-esteem. You have to spend more time working on yourself than looking at others. And again, I'm not being hypocritical here saying that, oh, so don't use social media whatsoever. No, use goddamn social media. That's fine. But if you're wasting all of your time in your life in social media and praising these girls that you see that are, completely unrealistic, then you're wasting time. You should be looking at yourself as well and putting in the work and getting in touch with the sides of you. So the person who loves being who they are, who, really have that pleasure, that enjoyment of being who they are, they accept them as flawed human beings. They accept themselves as whole. So we got to put in the work. The second thing that I think is extremely important is awareness. When I say awareness, it's not just being aware of the sides of you that maybe you reject. It's also knowing what it is exactly that you like, what it is exactly that you find beautiful, that you find intriguing, that makes you feel something. What is it that you want? Awareness is really knowing these things. So I'll give you an example of something that was so simple, but it blew my mind. I once did this work with a stylist, which, by the way, I highly recommend. It's great. And then they send you a form that you got to fill out saying, like, what are the colors that you don't like to wear? What are the types of clothes that you don't feel good in? What are the types of shapes, the patterns, they ask you an extensive list of questions that is 100% about self-awareness and like what you like. And when I got that form, I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the things that I when I put on, I'm like, I hate this. I don't know the things that I put on that I say, oh my gosh, I feel so sexy in this. Like, I don't know. I don't know because I never really stopped to think. I was just, buying clothes by looking at what someone else is wearing, thinking that it looks great on them, and then buying that, and then not having the awareness of, hey, yeah, maybe this shape, this pattern, I'm not a fan of. No. So I started to pay attention to that. And today I know that I love chunky jewelry. So if I'm wearing chunky jewelry, I feel better instantly. Look at me here with my chunky jewelry. I love it. I feel better. I know that when I'm wearing strapless things, tube tops, like whatever is strapless, I feel my best self in. I love it. I love it. And I know the types of shapes and patterns that I also hate. But again, you have to stop and create space for you to know these things. So one thing that we learned when we go to I didn't go to college for fashion, but I took a bunch of courses with amazing professionals in the market, amazing designers. One thing that you learn is to so when, for example, you're creating a collection and you're creating the concept and what you're going to do, the first step is research. So you start collecting all these images that you like, that make you feel a certain way, that intrigue you. So you collect a bunch of images and then you go back and you look at these images and you have to dissect what you like about them. You have to look at that image and be, what exactly about this do I like? So you sit down and you look at that thing and you have to pinpoint what you like. Is it the color? Is it the shape? Is it the contrast between something that's maybe more oversized and something that's more, non oversized? What is it that you like? What is it that intrigues you? So you have to be able to have that awareness. And then you put those things together again and you see the overlapping them to see exactly what's intriguing you and what you like. So I had to do a lot of that work when I was creating, collections and all of that. And that was such an eye-opening work that I was like, okay, now I understand that I love the contrast between something chunkier and oversized with something that's more, I don't know, like tight, more, I don't know. I love that. I love it. So we have to put in the time and create space to know what we like for ourselves. Not something that we look in somebody else and we're just like, oh my gosh, this person, this looks great. So I'm going to buy the same thing as they're wearing and hope that it's going to look great in me. Like, what is it that you like? And we're talking about clothes here, but it's everything else. It's hair. It's like the external appearance, but it's also internal stuff. What is it that you find attractive? Because chances are that what you find attractive in other people is just things that you also have, but you don't own or it's not developed. So, for example, one thing that I love and that I started noticing is people who have repertoire. I don't know. I don't know how to say that in English or the way that you guys say it here, but people that have an extensive baggage of things that they know and that they've lived and they're able to connect the dots. I think that's extremely attractive, extremely attractive. I think that people who have opinions, and they stand by what they believe, I think that's extremely attractive. People that know even small things like they know what to order when they go to a restaurant. Like they know they they're like, "Oh, I like this." People that know what they like, I think that's extremely attractive. So you have to be able to actually meditate on these things versus just thinking that, okay, what's the next thing that I'm going to conform to? What's the next thing that is trendy that I can just replicate to feel better about myself? Like that's weak, it's easily challenged. Now, when you actually stop to look and think, like you sit down and you're like, oh my gosh, I think this person is gorgeous. This person is so magnetic. Why? What draws me to this person? And you're like, oh, it's because they're like this, they're like that. And then you start understanding what matters to you and what you find beautiful and attractive and so on and so forth. I do also think that self confidence is another big thing when we talk about self esteem. When I say self confidence, I know it's not something that you just press a button and you're like, okay, now I'm confident. We know it's not how it goes. But when you talk about self confidence, most people talk about your body language, for example, which by the way, I think it's a great advice to pay attention to your body language, to pay attention of how you show yourself to the world, because your body also communicates not only to other people, but to yourself. So if you're always like, what is this word, like it's not crunching, like your shoulders, what is it, you know what I'm talking about, like you always have your shoulders like this, then you're also communicating to yourself that you don't belong in that place, or you're not confident, whatever. So if you just roll your shoulders back, that sends a message to your brain as well. So I do think that you have to pay attention to your body language, and a lot of the things that people talk about self-confidence, I think it makes a lot of sense. But one thing that I don't think people talk about enough is self-confidence as the ability of relying on yourself. And that is huge. When you know that you can rely on yourself, all of a sudden, it doesn't hurt you as much anymore if people don't like you, because you know you're going to survive. It doesn't hurt you anymore if people don't accept you, because you know you're going to survive. You know that you can rely on yourself to do what needs to be done to get out of the situation, or to. So I think real self confidence is not knowing that people will like you, it's knowing that you'll be okay if they don't. And that is precious. That is beautiful. But you can only develop that if you start honoring the commitments that you make with yourself. A lot of times you just say, oh, I should be doing more of this. I want to do more of that. Oh, I'm committing myself to do more of this. And then you don't do it. So what's the message that you're sending to yourself? That you cannot rely on yourself. What's the message that you're sending to yourself? That, yeah, it doesn't matter what you want. It doesn't matter what you like. You're not going to do it anyway. So we have to start honoring the commitments that we make with ourselves. And to do that, I feel like there's a couple of steps. Number one, you have to really be selective with what you commit yourself to do. I think, again, we commit ourselves to do anything we feel we should be doing by looking at other people. Oh, this person reads a lot, so I should be reading more. Even though I only read one book a year, I should be reading 24 books a year, 2 a month, because that's what they do. So let me, in my New Year's resolution, let me just add that as a goal, and I'm going to do it. The version of myself in the future is going to do it. And then you don't do it because it's not realistic or because it doesn't matter to you. So you have to be really selective with what you commit yourself to do. And to be selective, you have to, number one, know what you value. Know what your priorities are, but for real, not what you think you should want. What really matters to you? And this shouldn't be a laundry list. What really matters to us, what we're really willing to put in the work, is very few things. So you have to understand that. And number two, it has to be realistic with your routine. So if you say, I don't know, I want to go more to the gym, and I'm going to go to the gym every single day for 2 hours, but that doesn't fit into your schedule and your routine, you're going to fail yourself. So you have to make these commitments and be very selective with what you commit yourself to do. That's number one. Number two, and I don't know a more like subtle way of saying this. I'm going to be very straightforward. You have to become a goddamn adult that understand that things have a price that you have to pay, that, yeah, it's not always going to be comfortable, but you got to do what you got to do. As adults, we do what we have to do. We don't do what we feel like doing. We do what needs to be done. So you have to give yourself that pep talk and be like, yeah, I have to start showing up as an adult for myself. I have to start, if it's working out, which, by the way, another thing that we should not reject and be a taboo and walk in eggshells to talk about working out. Yes, you have to work out. You have to take care of your body, not only because it's part of your health and who you are, but because it's going to impact your energy, because it's going to impact everything in your life. So yeah, you have to work out. Find a goddamn way. Oh, but I don't have time. Find time. You know what I'm saying? Like, these things, you're an adult. So have that conversation with yourself. Like, yes, I have to show up for myself. You are the person who takes care of yourself, nobody else, as an adult. So that self-confidence, showing up for yourself, is also part of loving yourself and finding that true beauty, which again is the enjoyment of being who you are. So self-confidence, as in the ability of relying on yourself, is huge, huge. And you can start small with, things. There's so many opportunities in your day to day for you to start building this. It can be this gym situation, which, by the way, you can even think in your life when you said, for example, I'll give this example because a lot of people go through this, but you say, oh, I want to start going or working out more. And then you stay consistent for a week, for 2 weeks. Tell me you don't feel better about yourself. You do. And it's not just because of how your body feels and the biology of it and the hormones. It's because you are honoring a commitment that you make. So there are small things like this, or even another one that's a big one that I always try to work on is like, you tell yourself, oh, I'm going to do this. So only going to stay on social media for an hour. But then comes an hour and you don't get off social media. So then it's an hour 20, an hour 40, 2 hours, 3 hours. So you're telling your brain, yeah, it doesn't matter the things that I tell myself. It doesn't matter. I'm going to find a way, a workaround. I'm going to, So start with these things. Like, yeah, if you made a commitment of, I'm just going to be on social media for an hour, start really just being on social media for an hour. Tell your brain that, yeah, I can rely on myself. So that is part of this glow up journey of really loving who you are. All right, friends. So I think by this point, we already talked about beauty in a more holistic way. It's not just your external appearance, but also we cannot disregard that fact or just ignore just to feel better about the fact that, I don't know, try to be the anti hero and the person who rejects all the beauty standards. Like realistically, it, it matters, but it should not be the center of your life. Spend time getting to know yourself and see yourself as a human being, someone who's flawed, but someone who can be, whole and complete and beautiful. And, because that's who you are. And you got to put time into changing the voice in your head, changing that mindset, and really put in the work, dedicate hours to it, do it every day. Like you have to talk to yourself. The voice in your head is your reality. So you have to start listening, understanding what that voice is telling you, and reprogram that voice. It's going to be just like those cartoons that we see that is the little devil and the angel. You got to do that with yourself. What is your little devil telling you? And how can you reprogram that voice in your head? That's also part of self-esteem and building your self-esteem. So external appearance matters. That's fine, but don't let it be the center of your life. Be very selective with the people that you follow on social media. And that's your responsibility too, by the way. Today I'm being very direct, but we have to. Don't blame just creators. Oh, because people, society and people, like, no. You can select the content that you follow. So be smart about it. Be smart about the people that you follow. If you just follow people that teach you how to conform with the norms, then that's who you're going to become. That's what you care about. So start, being selective with the people that you follow. And not only the people that you follow, but like even your friends, the people that are in your life. If you're with a group that the only thing that you guys do is talk shit about other people's appearances, you're going to be as judgmental on yourself, as hard on yourself. If you don't accept something in another person, you don't accept something in yourself. So if this is the people that you hang out with, and you're part of the group too, again, take responsibility. So if the only thing that you do is talk shit about others, this is how you see yourself as well. The moment that you change groups, the moment that you hang out with people that they don't care about that as much, they don't talk about that as much, you're going to be the weird one. So you start changing as well. You're like, okay, yeah, maybe I should just be more accepting of people, because then you also become more accepting of yourself. So take responsibility for that and start looking at yourself, get to know yourself, spend time getting to know yourself, spend resources trying to get to know yourself, time, everything. You're beautiful. You're gorgeous. You're awesome. You're amazing. You're worthy. But you got to put in the time and the work on yourself. Stop trying to look like everybody else. I promise you, yeah, it's going to be you're going to be validated. Awesome. But, oh man, it doesn't last. It's not sustainable. Okay? Become who you are and become really good at being who you are. And then you're going to become magnetic. And then, my love, people are going to look at you and be like, what is this? Is this God? I've been touched by God by being in an interaction with this person, because this person is so sure of who they are. They stand by who they are. Oh my God. It's the most beautiful thing. Okay? I'll see you on the next episode.